Are you ready? Let's take a quick break. I'm gonna try to learn a character.
Hello everyone, now that he's announced for Tekken 8, welcome to the Leroy Primer. Leroy lacks a lot of generic tools like down forward 2, hop kick, and even a standing toe kick, but he makes up for it by being a generally quick character and a counter hit beast, which includes both a wealth of crush tools and an obnoxious parry, and he has plenty of lows to crack a defense along with a powerful stance. Plus he has a dog, so if that's your style, you're going to like it. As with our other primers, this video should give you a good quick rundown on the character to jumpstart your learning and get you playing some matches. We will keep the technical lingo to a minimum, but you should still have some knowledge on basic standardized Tekken terms, especially notations and terms for various game mechanics. In other words, this guide is meant for beginners, but you should already know a little bit about the game, just not necessarily the character. If you are brand new to Tekken, check out the resource links in the video description below. I've included several, including a system basics guide that operates as a tutorial for the whole game, since Tekken doesn't really have that built in. To me, I think it's incredibly important to go over that before trying to tackle character-specific guides. But enough of all that, let's begin. Hello there, and welcome to part 1 of our series on Tekken 7 Basics. We wanted to put together these videos because Tekken is a game with incredible depth, and as we continue to pump out videos that address more intermediate and advanced topics for the game, it seems wise to start from the very beginning and provide something to players that are absolutely new to the game. We've looked around, and simply put, there are no comprehensive beginner videos that really walk you through the most basic of terms and mechanics that would otherwise help you hit the ground running. There's also nothing in the game that acts as a truly appropriate tutorial for those wishing to become competitive, although we should note that this is largely by design, since the developers wish for the game to be learned primarily through immersion. But to be fair to newer players, we feel it's important that we should note that this is largely by design, since the developers wish for the game to be learned primarily through immersion. But to be fair to newer players, we feel it's important that we start putting together this basic information on the channel so that there's something to easily reference if something doesn't quite make sense on another intermediate or advanced video. Now make a note that there is also a written version of this guide, the link for which you can find in the video description below. This guide includes everything that we will cover throughout all of these videos, so if you don't want to wait for future videos to come out, you can simply go read through the guide right now. We will also keep the guide updated with necessary corrections, or if there are additional topics we feel should be included later down the road. Now, before we can go any farther and even discuss the actual game, we have to come to an agreement on how to talk about its elements. For the purposes of this guide, we will stick to the standard Western verbiage. I've included a link to a glossary on TekkenZaibatsu.com, and if you're coming to Tekken fresh, having never played it before, you should stop right after this section is finished in a moment and go look through this list, particularly the commands and notations, as they are the most important. But you may see all of these glossary items throughout this and other guides. You might also find the jargon list useful, which is another link I provided in the description below, as those terms can pop up from time to time as well. Also, keep in mind that certain terms can be used interchangeably, while others may be spoken slightly differently in person. For instance, in my region, we tend to combine numbers, so that instead of 1 plus 2, we might say 12. Or many players refer to any kind of crouching dash animation as a crouch dash, even though the technical notation for a crouch dash is going to differ from character to character. Learning these nuances simply comes with time. So without further ado, let's get to it. It's by no means necessary to have frame data memorized, but it's still important to understand the concept of frames. if only because they're referred to constantly. Tekken 7 is a game that runs at 60 frames per second. If you've done gaming in the past, any kind of gaming, you're probably familiar with the idea of FPS already, but just in case, this means that for every second of gameplay, there are 60 frames or images displayed sequentially on the screen. So, if a move is 20 frames fast, then that would equal 20/60ths of a second, or 1/3 of a second fast. Similarly, keep in mind that there are many moves that require multiple directional inputs before you hit the attack button. When this happens, we typically add the letter I beforehand to indicate that we're talking about just the speed of the attack, not the speed of any directional inputs that may have been applied. For example, the Mishima uppercut or Wind God Fist is executed by inputting forward, neutral, down, down, forward 2. You can do the directional inputs at varying speeds and still get the move to come out. But once you hit 2, the actual attack will always take 11 frames to come out. In this situation, we remove the directional inputs entirely and say that the move is I11. Now make a note here, the directional inputs do still matter. In the previous example, a Wind God Fist can never come out in 11 frames. Rather, the fastest it can come out is at 14 frames due to the necessary directional inputs. Kazuya has a slightly different input that's a little faster, but we won't focus too much on exceptions in this guide unless it's to highlight something particularly important. Now this leads us to the topic of hitboxes and hurtboxes. Hurtboxes refer to the pixels on the screen that represent your character's body. Conversely, hitboxes refer to the pixels that represent how much of the screen an attack occupies. As you might expect, if a hitbox comes in contact with a hurtbox, it generally registers a hit. There are exceptions that we'll discuss later, but for now, understand that hurtboxes are almost always active in some form or another. Hitboxes are not. If we use a standard 10 frame jab as an example, the jab is not active for the entire 10 frames. Instead, it is active only on the 10th frame. That's when the game checks to see if it came in contact with anything. Most moves are active for only a single frame, but there are many that are not. For instance, all homing moves are active for multiple frames. Understanding frames, hitboxes, and hurtboxes is important to topics we'll be discussing shortly. You might have noticed the tool that we've been showing you on the screen as well. Namco has introduced an in-game frame data feature for the first time ever, so you can check frames as you're playing. If you want to see hitboxes and hurtboxes in action, feel free to search YouTube. There's no in-game function for this, but there are a lot of people that have experimented with them so that you can actually see the hitboxes and hurtboxes on the screen. It's neat if you're looking for something interesting to watch. Okay, so let's talk more about how attacks work. In Tekken, there are 3 general attack ranges: high, mid, and low. Highs can be blocked standing, but can also be ducked. Mids can be blocked standing, but cannot be ducked. Lows can only be blocked crouching, but can be jumped, or sometimes parried, which we'll talk about that later. There's also a 4th, more rare type of attack, a special mid. A special mid can be blocked standing or crouching. Some can be jumped, and some can be low parried, which, by the way, a special mid that can be low parried is sometimes referred to as a special low. A crouching jab is a good example of a special mid that can be low parried. The hitbox on Marduk's tackle is a good example of a special mid that cannot be low parried. Now that we've established attack ranges, let's talk about character states. Similar to attacks, there are 3 general states for neutral: standing, or just simply neutral, crouching, and airborne. Again, generally speaking, if you are crouching, you will go under highs. If you are airborne, you will go over lows. And if you are just standing there, everything should have the opportunity to hit you. Note that certain moves and attacks can jump between these states. For example, a jumping move may start you as standing, but eventually take you into an airborne status. You may also run into moves that do not explicitly change states, but still have some evasive properties, or you may have a move that crushes. We'll talk more both about crushes and evasive properties in a later video. Finally, note that there are attacks in Tekken that cannot be blocked, referred to simply as unblockables. These attacks still fall into the categories above as a way of describing their hitboxes, they just cannot be blocked. In other words, an unblockable can still have the properties of high, so it can be ducked, or have properties of low, so it can be jumped, and so on. You may at this point be thinking, why duck when I can stand and block most things in the game? And to a large extent, this thinking is accurate. Most Tekken players will tell you that you really don't want to duck unless you absolutely have to. There is of course more to this that we'll discuss as we go. Tekken players will tell you that you really don't want to duck unless you have thinking, why duck when I can stand and block most things in the game? And to a large extent, this thinking is accurate. Most Tekken players will tell you that you really don't want to duck unless you absolutely have to. There is of course more to this that we'll discuss as we go. The last thing we're going to be talking about here in our first episode is blocking and buffering. Guard damage is extremely rare in Tekken. The vast majority of the time you can block without penalty. Consequently, blocking isn't just important, it's everything in terms of defense. Thankfully, it's a fairly simple concept. Just press back to block standing, or down back to block crouching. You will continue to block for as long as you hold the direction. 2 things to keep in mind. First, blocking is instant. It only takes 1 frame to initiate block. In other words, if you slide from back to down back, the game will acknowledge down back for the purposes of blocking on the very next frame possible. But this also works in reverse. If you go from down back to back, it will put you back in standing. So whichever level you want to block at, you do have to commit to it. Second, there are situations where the only thing you can do is block. An example is the spin state that happens from certain moves. This is important to understand because you may see frame data that lists a move on hit as being plus 13G or something like that. Yes, it does take plus 13 frames to recover. However, you are allowed to block during that time, so a follow-up attack is not guaranteed. We should also quickly mention neutral guard. If you simply stand there and do not hit any buttons, the game will stand block for you, but it's important to understand that neutral guard is very finicky, so you should only use it when you know it will work. For instance, many strings require you to commit to blocking by holding back or similar, or it will not register you as blocking. On that note, we must now discuss recovery, which we've somewhat been discussing already. Simply put, whenever you perform an attack or an action, the game requires you to wait a certain amount of time before discuss recovery. As many strings require you to commit to blocking by holding back or similar, or it will not register you as blocking. On that, no, it will work. For instance, many strings require you to commit to blocking by holding back or similar, or it will not register you as blocking. On that note, we must now discuss recovery, which we've somewhat been discussing already. Simply put, whenever you perform an attack or an action, the game requires you to wait a certain amount of time before performing another action. For most movement actions, the recovery window is very small. In the example we used previously, going from standing to crouch or vice versa requires practically no recovery. It happens immediately. Dash blocking, something we'll discuss in the future, requires a few frames of recovery to execute. Now doing an attack, on the other hand, requires much more recovery time. This is important for 2 reasons. First, if your attack misses, you are vulnerable to counterattack until your character recovers. Second, if an attack hits or gets blocked, both characters must have time to recover. Sometimes the attacker takes longer to recover, sometimes it's the blocker. Part of the game's complexity involves knowing how fast the character recovers in these situations. Now furthermore, understanding recovery is important to the idea of punishment. If somebody misses or whiffs a move, you have an opportunity to land an attack without worrying about them being able to block it. But because recovery times vary between moves, you will need to study and learn how fast certain moves recover, and thus how much time you have to retaliate. The same is true for moves blocked. There are many moves that, if blocked, will allow you to get a free counterattack. Identifying these situations and knowing what your best punisher is crucial to playing good defense. It is also important in terms of baiting, a concept we'll cover later. Note as well that there are many attacks that give guaranteed follow-ups if they hit. This is of course due to the large size of the recovery window for the victim. However, we typically think of these as combos rather than punishers, since they require a hit to land first, although many combo starters are also punishers if used in a punishing context. Also, when you look at frame data, the numbers you see reflect the situational advantage of a move on hit, block, etc. For example, if a move is -12 on block, that means the attacker recovers in 12 more frames than the defender. Whiff recovery is rarely given in frame data since it often doesn't translate to practical knowledge in this comparative sense. The reason for this is because there's just no comparative data to provide for the defender. The attacker is simply left hanging for an indeterminate amount of time. The last thing we'll mention in this section is buffering. As you would expect, the developers want to give players ample leeway to input the vast majority of moves, so to accomplish this, the game allows you to store inputs ahead of time. We call this buffering. For instance, if you block an attack and then input your own counter attack, you don't have to time it perfectly on the frame you recover. Instead, the game allows you to input your attack several frames before you recover, and it will store it so that the attack comes out as soon as you recover. The game will also let you do this for directional inputs. This helps greatly if you're trying to retaliate with a complex grab or trying to sidestep immediately. Buffering is not limited to let you do this for directional inputs. This helps greatly if you're trying to retaliate with a complex grab or trying to sidestep immediately. Buffering is not limited to block recovery, but this is when you'll see it most often. Thanks for watching this first video. We hope you enjoyed, and if you're new, we definitely hope that this was helpful. Again, reminder that the full written guide is already completed, and you can find the link in the description below. If you take a glance at it, you'll notice we have a bunch of topics left to cover, so still several videos on the way. However, you can obviously use the written guide to jump ahead if you don't wish to wait until the remaining videos are finished. That being said, we hope you'll give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. I also do as much streaming as I possibly can, so you can find my Twitch link below as well. I also have Twitter, Facebook, and all that. If you really like the channel content, please also consider supporting us on Patreon. That's the absolute best way to support your favorite content. Hello everyone, now that he's announced for Tekken 8, welcome to the Leroy Primer. Hello and welcome to part 2 of our series on Tekken 7 Basics. Our intro section in part 1 provided a good foundation, so we won't waste a lot of time on this intro, but I would like to remind you that the written version of this guide is already completed, so if you're looking for more information and don't want to wait for the next videos, take a look at the video description below to find a link to that. I've also once again included a link to the Tekken glossary and jargon list in case you need to reference that at any point. Now on with the show. We've covered enough that we can now talk a little about general Tekken movement. This is movement that essentially all characters share in some fashion. Keep in mind that we are only going to go so deep here. There are technical character statuses we can talk about, but those are best left for more advanced guides. First, jumping. To jump, simply hold any of the upward directions. Typically, you are considered airborne 9 frames after starting your jump, meaning that during those initial 9 frames, lows and low-hitting moves may still hit you. In other words, it does take time for your character to actually go airborne, even after you've inputted the jump on your controller. Note that this only applies to a raw jump. There are many attacks and manual movement techniques that go airborne in fewer than 9 frames. Crouching, as mentioned in part 1, is the exact opposite. Hello everyone, now that First, it's important to recognize that Leroy is a strong poke character, which is important because poking is a fundamental skill to slow people down and catch some easy advantage situations. Both his jabs and down forward 1 have great string follow-ups, which is always going to make those tools better. Standing foot skill to slow people down and catch some easy advantage situations. Both his jabs and down forward 1 have great string follow-ups, which is always going to make those tools better. Standing 3, forward 3, and forward 4 are all safe quick mids with string follow-ups. Down 2, down back 4, full crouch down forward 4, and sidestep 4 are incredibly good low pokes with strong counter hit potential. Now, if you really want to break a defense, you have a couple options. His pokes can certainly do this slowly over time, but he also has a powerful knockdown combo with down back 3, 1+2, as well as a strong poke combo with down 3, 2 that will take into stance for more pressure. Once they start ducking, you have a bunch of powerful mids to choose from depending on your risk tolerance. Up forward 3, down 1+2, and the 1+2 string are really good for low risk and moderate reward. The 1+2 string is notable since it's all mid, it's all a combo on normal hit, and only the very last hit is unsafe on block. Plus, if you do 1+2, 1+2, you can simply wait to see if any of those punches hit before finishing the final attack. At the wall, this gets really scary since it can splat. If you're a little farther away, consider using one of your approach tools like forward 1+2 or running 3. Up forward 2 and up forward 4 are also very good, and the latter is a launcher, they're just a little slow. Another thing you can do, which we've alluded to a little, is lean on string pressure to nab counter hits. 1+2 is a strong one, of course. Forward 3, 1+2, and while standing 3, 1+2 are very similar, although they're not safe on block. We already mentioned his jabs, down forward 1, down 2, and full crouch down forward 4. Some other common ones, 2-1, forward 2-3, down forward 3-1, and down 1-2. We're not going to go over the intricacies of each string he has, just understand that the goal is to freeze your opponent with the follow-up threats. If they're not patient, then the counter hits are going to hurt. Given that a lot of what we mentioned can take you there, the last thing we'll mention is his stance, which is called permanent. It operates not too unlike his neutral. 3-4 is your chunky low threat, but everything else is designed to either counter buttons or put you into a good standing position. For example, both of the lows, 3-4 and back 4, give you advantage on hit. Back 4 also high crushes and will juggle on counter hit. Forward 4 is your low crush and a mid launcher, and although not advantage on block, 0 still works well for you. Back 1 is a straight up pressure tool that gives advantage on block, hits hard on normal hit, and launches on counter hit. If you just need something fast, forward 1, 2-1, 1+2, and Hermit 4 are all good options. Only 1+2 is unsafe on block, but still not too bad. And Hermit 4 has a follow-up, so again, back to those string threats, which for that move is actually really important because it's the only Hermit move that stays in Hermit afterwards. Regardless, if you go to Hermit with advantage, it's really dangerous for them to hit buttons. Now, you can't block in Hermit, but it's unique in that it has substantial defensive options. The one Hermit attack we didn't mention was Hermit 1, which is a punch reversal in addition to being just a safe mid. If you don't do anything in stance, like no buttons whatsoever, the stance has an auto low reversal which will allow for a free follow-up. Pressing down or up in stance will do a little sidestep, and you can do his back 2 parry from stance, which we'll talk about in a moment. Point is, just like his neutral, you want to keep the pressure up and maintain a low risk versus reward while keeping them thinking twice about challenging. So we're going to start here with the counter hit tools because they can be used for both offense and defense, and we kind of glossed over them in the last section. We didn't say it explicitly, but instead of ending your streams, you can simply substitute in your neutral counter hit tools in most cases, which is a way to give yourself more options. He doesn't have a typical magic 4, but he has 2 similarly fast tools to make up for that. Back 1 and back 1+2. Back 1 has more range and is safe, but doesn't give a full juggle like back 1+2. Back 1+2 is also not too unsafe, so it's still not an incredible risk. His 1-1 string can also be really strong for interrupts since the whole thing is guaranteed if the first jab lands counter. And then all the strings we already mentioned can be really good for this purpose, and so many are incredibly fast. So 1+2, 2-2, 3-3, 4-4, forward 2-3, forward 3, and so on. Some of these will come with some risk, of course, but the necessary response will be different for each, so mixing them up well can make playing defense against Leroy exceptionally hard. And if you need crush tools, no problem. He has an orbital, which is a safe mid jumping launcher, and down back 4, which will go under highs and gives a mini combo on counter hit. Upward 3 again deserves an honorable mention as well since it's faster than upward 4, has more range, and can still wall spot. All that said, Leroy is a strong block and whip punisher too. 1-2-4 is above average damage for a jab punish and takes into stance. 2-2 is only slightly slower and beefier damage. 4-4 is the same speed if you prefer. 2. 124 is above average damage for a jab punish and takes him to stance. 2-2 is only slightly still wall spell. All that said, Leroy is a strong block and whip punisher too. 124 is above average damage for a jab punish and takes him to stance. 2-2 is only slightly slower and beat your damage. 4-4 is the same speed if you prefer that. The 1+2 string is your next tier, and then after that you can start launching with down forward 2. Crouch is mostly a standard affair with while standing 4 is your quickest safest option, then while standing 1-4, and then launch time with while standing 2. While standing 1-4 does take you to stance, so it's notable for that. Of course, all of these are good for whiffs as well, although make note of forward forward 2-2 and forward forward 3. The former is very unsafe on block for a launcher. The latter is high but safe on block and crazy range. So both are important to keep your opponent a little fearful at range. Beyond that, make note of his armor move, down forward 1+2, which is also a wall bounce. And then we save the most annoying one for last, which is his back 2 parry. Much like Jin's, Leroy's parry nearly moves himself out of the way, so it will parry knees, elbows, etc. in addition to the normal punch defense. This is not standard for most reversals, so it's a notable point. It does have a canned attack, which you can do by pressing any combination of punches, but you can also do any of your normal kick attacks, or by simply waiting a moment, you can do other punch moves. This is most helpful if you parry a move that has slow recovery, so something that might normally be safe, you may be able to launch it. This is often the case with slow pressure tools or armor attacks. Either way, the parry activates stupidly fast, so you can fit it in practically anywhere. Excellent tool to make your opponent slow down. Also, along those lines, something to note, if you do Hermit manually with 3+4, the auto low reversal activates immediately. So you can use that instead of a low parry if you want. Just like with back 2, the Hermit parry will work on everything, even weapon attacks, so very useful in a bind. A few quick final items to wrap up Leroy. First, not much of a grab game, so you can skip those unless, as usual, your opponent is just not good at breaking them. Second, we'll skip juggles like normal as well, since those are straightforward. I provided a link to some standard combos in the video description below for when you get to that point. Third, we haven't mentioned it, but Leroy does have a very unique once-a-match move with his cane. It's a safe, rangy mid-launcher, so it is very good, but once you use it, no more for the rest of the match, so just pick your moment wisely there. Next, his rage drive is a safe 3-hit mid-string. No juggle, but does hefty damage if it lands, and it can splat from really far out. On block, it does give a lot of advantage, but this is only useful at the wall since it has tons of pushback in the open. And then lastly, a word on his tracking. His homing tools are very good. In the neutral, back 4 is a safe rangy mid that does solid damage, very abusable. Forward 2 is actually a homing move as well, so if you're noticing a lot of stepping at close range, forward 2-3 does really well there. We did mention it earlier, but Hermit back 4 is homing as well, so it doubles as an anti-step tool when you're in stance. Down back 3 might as well be homing given how ridiculously hard it is to step. Lows that track well are highly valuable, hence the reason that's important. Most of Leroy's tools track very well to his left, but not so much to his right, especially sidewalk, so unless you want to go for broke with a down forward 2 or forward forward 2-2, always be using your homing tools, or be mindful to realign yourself often. This brings us to the end of the primer. I'm hoping this information was succinct and helpful for getting a jump on the character, but feedback is always welcome. Be mindful that in-depth discussion for game plans and move attributes will be saved for intermediate guides, although since we have the more robust basics guides already for Tekken 7, true intermediate guides will be something to look out for with Tekken 8. Lastly, big thanks to our patrons. You guys are the best, and that support means more than you know. First, it's important to recognize that Leroy is a strong poke character, which is important because poking is a fundamental skill to slow people down and catch some easy advantage situations. Both his jabs and down forward 1 have great string follow-ups, which is always going to make those tools better. Standing 3, forward 3, and forward 4 are all safe quick mids with string follow-ups. Down 2, down back 4, full crouch down forward 4, and sidestep 4 are incredibly good low pokes with strong counter hit potential. Now, if you really want to break a defense, you have a couple options. His pokes can certainly do this slowly over time, but he also has a powerful knockdown combo with down back 3, 1+2, as well as a strong poke combo with down 3, 2 that will take him to stance for more pressure. Once they start ducking, Hello and welcome to part 2 of our series on Tekken 7 basics. Our intro section in part 1 provided a good foundation, so we won't waste a lot of time on this intro, but I would like to remind you that the written version of this guide is already completed, so if you're looking for more information and don't want to wait for the next videos, take a look at the video description below to find a link to that. I've also
Thank you. saw my character and watched a tutorial. Now I need to make it make sense. Not fix for the match. Let me know when you are ready.
Hello everyone, we continue our Tekken 8 prep, so welcome to our Ling Primer. Ling is the queen of evasion, exemplified by her Art of Phoenix stance. She's not necessarily a mix-up beast, but she is an exceptional poker, which feeds into her evasive qualities by slowly antagonizing the opponent into mistakes. So don't expect to be a 50-50 monster, but at the same time, if you love using the character's full move list and getting really weird and creative with it, Ling is definitely for you. As with our other primers, this video should give you a good quick rundown on the character to jumpstart your learning and get you playing some matches. We will keep the technical lingo to a minimum, but you should still have some knowledge on basic standardized Tekken terms, especially notations and terms for various game mechanics. In other words, this guide is meant for beginners, but you should already know a little bit about the game, just not necessarily the character. If you are brand new to Tekken, check out the resource links in the video description below. I've included several. Hello, welcome to part 1 of our Negan Basics Guide. Reminder that this is game version 4.2. This first part will be essential tools, which will include essential moves, grabs, punishers, and basic combos. In part 2, we'll talk about common game plan elements and recommend some players to watch, as well as cap it off with a character summary. For beginners, note the resource links in the video description below. I've included several you should check out. Be sure to at least learn notations so that you can follow along easier. With that, let's talk The Walking Dead. Negan has a really undervalued assortment of jab strings. He has 5 string starters, 1-1, 1-2, 1-4, 2-1, and 2-2. Only 1-1 and 2-2 don't jail, and 2-2 has a mid for the second hit, so duckers will still eat it. Note that his 2-jab is I-11, not I-10. The third hit of these are very dangerous for your opponent to attack into, however 1-1-2 and his 1-2 options are by far the most common. 1-1-2 is a very simple, safe, high mid combo. You more or less lose your turn on block, but the mid is his bat, so it's unparryable, and on counter hit will yield a nice chunk of damage or a wall splat. 1-2 is your best threat though. Both 1-2-4 and 1-2-2 are safe, the latter actually being +4 on block and a launcher. The downside to it is that it's interruptible, whereas 1-2-4 is not, and on counter hit, 1-2-4 gives the same fallback stun or splat as 1-1-2, so still very dangerous if they attack into it. But 1-2 can also go into stance, and since the transition is fast and ambiguous and you have strong counter options in stance, that transition is still very good on block. So 1-2 is your bread and butter, but mixing in the other options is still a wise idea to help make it hard for them to identify the strong 1-2 options. 4-2 is a safe I-12 high mid counter hit combo, same 2 hits as from 1-4-2. Negan doesn't have a magic 4 or really any fast counter hit tool like most characters, so this is kind of the best he has for that. 2+3 is a safe I-14 mid shove, does no damage on its own, and on normal hit is only +2, but on counter hit it goes to INT at +14, which gives you a free INT 1-2. Usually though, what you want is a trade to cancel the transition. For example, anything that gives you +4 gives you a setup for a trade with jabs. If you get the trade and cancel the stance transition, you get a gigantic window to follow up. Forward 1+2 is probably the easiest, but a dash into down forward 2 is common as well. Really, whatever you want. Negan has a lot of setups for this, so it's a very common tool. Speaking of, forward 1+2 is an I-24 mid power crush, -15 on block, so very risky, but gives a full launch in return. Great range, and not all characters are good at punishing -15, so in certain matchups the utility skyrockets. An important tool either way, since it's one of the few power crushes that launch. Side note, he actually has 2 of them, the other being in his stance. Down forward 1 is a safe I-13 mid poke, more or less a generic down forward 1 but with string options for more cover. Down forward 1-2 is your unsafe chunky mid ender, down forward 1-1 is your safe high poke that has its own mid for cover, a nasty counter hit launcher. Both down forward 1-1 and down forward 1-2 are natural combos. Down forward 1-2 is only -11, which is on the safer side for such strings, and it can go to stance, so fair amount of versatility with this down forward 1. Down forward 2 is an I-15 mid launcher, so it's your fastest launcher, solid range, and since it's his bat, it's unparryable. It's very unsafe, but it's really the only fast launcher he has, so you gotta use it. It has great range though, just be careful with it. Down forward 4 is a safe I-14 mid poke, normally used for one of the follow-ups. Down forward 4-3 is a safe mid ender. Down forward 4-2 is duckable, but gives +1 with no stance, or a big +5 going into stance. It's also a natural combo, whereas down forward 4-3 is not, which is the big trade-off for it being safe. We normally don't mention crouch jabs, but Negan is severely lacking in crushes and fast counter hit tools, so you have to lean on it a bit more than most. Down back 3 and down 4 are your quick high crushing low pokes. You'll use the toe kick way more since it's faster and has really good range for a toe kick, but down back 3 is there if you want a little more damage. Down back 2 is your main big low threat, at least from neutral. It's a bit on the slow side at I-24, but still fast enough to use and unparryable, which helps since a lot of players instinctively try to low parry slow attacks. -14 on block, so very unsafe if it does get blocked, but on hit gives chunky damage and goes to INT at +7, so very scary low. Down back 4 is an I-19 low, +3 on hit, -13 on block. On counter hit gives +7 and turns your opponent, giving you a free 1-2-4 unless they duck, in which case you can get a launch with down forward 2. So a nice little mix up there, but a good little pressure poke regardless. Back 2 is a safe I-16 homing high, useful as a quick anti-step tool, although it's -3 on hit, which isn't great. However, the enders are very nice. Both are mid and counter hit combos. Back 2-3 is actually safe, and although back 2-2 isn't, it yields more damage unless near a wall, in which case back 2-3 will splat. You can also do the second hit of back 2-2 by itself as just down 2, which is actually safe. Not a bad little option if you want. Back 3 is an I-23 low, +5 on hit, +11 on counter hit, which gives a free 1-2-4, only -12 but very short range. Unlike down back 2, it's also parryable. Can still be a really nasty threat if placed well. Back 1+2 is an I-22 power mid, +4 on block, knockdown splat on hit, launch on counter hit. This is your main mix to down back 2 and back 3 since it's roughly the same speed, but it's
this? Could it be? Could it be? We're on the intermediate fundamental. What it is, how it works, why it works, and a few examples of different types of mistakes I make. Now, as a reminder, if you enjoy learning Tekken and being entertained overall. Alright, now let's take a look at a couple of different Oki examples, just so we have a better idea of the different range of Oki setups and mix-ups. For example, Bob. Now, Bob has wave dash 3-2 or crouch dash 3-2 into back 3. If the opponent attempts to do any recovery options other than a quick back roll, the back 3 is 100% guaranteed. However, this back 3 can be avoided entirely if the opponent does a quick back roll. Now, if you avoid the opponent and you hold back to avoid the back 3, and now you're probably thinking, great, I've avoided the Oki. No, that's wrong. What actually happened is the Oki has now just started. That's right. After performing quick back roll, the mix-up begins. Since we already know that the quick back roll is the only recovery method to avoiding back 3, this recovery can be exploited. Now, take a look at while Geese is performing this quick back roll. Bob is able to apply his Oki during this timing. He's able to wave dash in and apply a 50-50 mid-low or low-mid mix-up as soon as Geese gets to his feet. Bob can do a wave dash into Hell Sweep for the low option, and he can also go for the wave dash into 4-4-2 as the mid option. If Geese guesses correctly on the low, he can block the Hell Sweep, and then because it's a stagger low, Geese can punish it. And if Geese guesses correctly on the mid, the 4-4-2, he's able to take back his turn / momentum, if you will, since 4-4-2 is -8 on block. Now, this Oki basically seeks to exploit the vulnerability timing of the quick back roll, so as an option to avoid guaranteed damage. Basically what I'm saying here is, if you're looking to avoid the back 3 as a potential damage, you basically also then set yourself up being ready for the next Oki option. Now for our last and final example, a slightly more complicated Oki game, brought to you by Mr. Craig Marduk. Now, Marduk has a very strong Oki game if he ends his combo with 4-4-3-2. After ending a combo with 4-4-3-2, Marduk can run in for a 3-way Oki game. The first option Marduk has is just straight up running towards the opponent, performing a spear attack. Now, this Oki option shuts down two main things. This Oki option shuts down opponents who are going to tech roll, and it shuts down opponents who are going to quick back roll. Either of two of these will result in getting spear tackle and mounted for a 1 in 3 chance to break the BTS mount. Now, the only way to avoid the spear tackle is to either 1, remain grounded, in which case you will be trampled over, or 2, you can tech roll and try to break the tackle, which, very hard online. Or the last option, you can do a quick recovery kick, in which case when you spring up for the kick, you'll hit Marduk as he's trying to tackle you, bringing yourself to your feet and have a fighting chance against Mr. Marduk. Now that we've talked about the ways to escape it, let's take a look at the various options that Marduk has to shut down each of these. So to avoid opponents who just remain grounded or who are willing to take the grounded damage, Marduk doesn't really want to just run at them and trample over, right? If the Marduk has an idea that the opponent is going to stay on the ground, then he can do a run-up ground throw. If he goes for the running ground throw, whether it's the 1+3, where he flings his opponent in the air, or the 2+4 throw, both deal a ton of damage. A lot of damage. So if Marduk suspects that you're going to stay grounded because you want to avoid this spear tackle, he can just run up, throw you. Now, if the opponent suspects that the Marduk is going to go for the ground throw, getting further and further into the layers of the Oki, if they suspect that Marduk's going to go for the ground throw, they have a whole host of options to avoid it, right? They can do a delayed wake-up mid-kick. They can do delayed wake-up low-kick. They can do spring kick, and they can do front roll, as well as quick recovery kick. However, Marduk has an option to shut all these options down as well. So all Marduk has to do is run up, down back 2 as an Oki option, and this will shut down quick recovery kicks. This will shut down delayed wake-up kicks. This will shut down spring kicks, and this will also shut down front rolls. So overall, when the Marduk runs up with a down back 2 as an Oki option, he can cover these things. However, down back 2 can be avoided, as all good mix-ups and Okis can be. All you have to do is either quick back roll, or you can do a tech roll and block it, or you can stay grounded. But you're smart, and I know you're smart, and you're probably already figured this out. This brings us back to the giant wheel of Oki destruction. Basically, running spear is going to snuff out any quick back rolls, as well as tech rolls, which we covered right before all of this. And if you decide to stay grounded to avoid the down back 2, then this leads back into the ground throw situation that we were at before. So this is a slightly more complicated ground Oki game, because now there are 3 options to consider, right? Alrighty, everybody, thank you guys so much for sitting through this video and watching it. I hope this enlightened you in regards to what Oki is, why it works, how it works, and the different implications or applications of Oki. Because we hear this term a lot when the announcers, or while Geese is performing this quick back roll, Bob is able to
rip some ass. Hell to the year. Whoop some ass. Damn, playboy, way to represent. We about to set it off. Whoop some ass. Damn, Damn, playboy. Way to represent. Damn, playboy. Way to represent. About to set it off. Whoop some ass. Damn, playboy. Way to represent. Smoke.
In which case you will be trampled over. Or two, you can tech roll and try to break the tackle, which, very hard online. Or the last option, you can do a quick recovery kick, in which case when you spring up for the kick, you'll hit Marduk as he's trying to tackle you, bringing yourself to your feet and have a fighting chance against Mr. Marduk. Now that we've talked about the ways to escape it, let's take a look at the various options that Marduk has to shut down each of these. So to avoid opponents who just remain grounded or who are willing to take the grounded damage, Marduk doesn't really want to just run at them and trample over them, right? If the Marduk has an idea that the opponent is going to stay on the ground, then he can do a run-up ground throw. If he goes for the running ground throw, whether it's the 1+3 where he flings his opponent in the air, or the 2+4 throw, both deal a ton of damage. A lot of damage. So if Marduk suspects that you're going to stay grounded because you want to avoid this spear tackle, he can just run up, throw you. Now, if the opponent suspects that the Marduk is going to go for the ground throw, getting further and further into the layers of the Oki, if they suspect that Marduk's going to go for the ground throw, they have a whole host of options to avoid it, right? They can do a delayed wake-up mid-kick. They can do delayed wake-up low-kick. They can do spring kick, and they can do front roll, as well as quick recovery kick. However, Marduk has an option to shut all these options down as well. So all Marduk has to do is run up, down back 2 as an Oki option. And this will shut down quick recovery kicks. This will shut down delayed wake-up kicks. This will shut down spring kick.
We about to set it off. Whoop some ass. Damn, play. Represent.
This will shut down these options down as well. So all Marduk has to do is run up, down back 2 as an Oki option. And this will shut down quick recovery. So all Marduk has to do is run up, down back 2 as an Oki option. And this will shut down quick recovery kicks. This will shut down delayed wake-up kicks. This will shut down spring kicks. And this will also shut down front rolls. So overall, when the Marduk runs up with a down back 2 as an Oki option, he can cover these things. However, down back 2 can be avoided, as all good mix-ups and Okis can be. All you have to do is either quick back roll, or you can do a tech roll and block it, or you can stay grounded. But you're smart, and I know you're smart, and you're probably already figured this out. This brings us back to the giant wheel of Oki destruction. Basically, running spear is going to snuff out any quick back rolls, as well as tech rolls.
All right, what?
I wish I understood what I was watching.
Me too.
Wish I.
Me too, buddy. I definitely, I watched the tutorial, I understand what I'm supposed to do. I watched this part where he said game plan and strategy, kind of get it, but the way he talked about it was kind of assuming you understood Tekken or 3D games as a whole. So I say we're going to play it with some of the things he said in mind, and then just go from there and watch the video over and over again. I'll probably have more context as I go. Rewatch the video.
Get your cameras ready, folks. This ain't gonna last.
Okay people, this is himself. Welcome to my speed guide for Marduk. The idea behind this is simple. I show you all the basics and essentials that you have up front, walking off with punishers. With that out of the way, let's begin. Starting off with punishers. At 10 frames, we have 1 down 2. At 12 frames, we have up forward 1 2. At 10 frames, we have 1 down 2. At 12 frames, we have up forward 1 2. And at 13 frames, we have DF42. This can wall splat. At 15 frames, we have DF1. At 17 frames, we have DF3, DF1. These are both launchers. The former also covers his weak side. For a long range punish, we have F1 plus 2. This is 50. .15 frames and a power crush. On hit, we also get OK. If they stand or back roll, DF1 launches. If they stay down, D3. OK. If they stand or back roll, DF1 launches. If they stay down, D3. We also get a stomp at the wall. For while standing punishers, at 11 frames we have while standing. Standing 1. At 13 frames we have while standing 4 standing punishers at For while standing punishers, at 11 frames we have while standing 1, at 13 frames we have while standing 4, and at 18 frames we have while standing 3. Whilst for while stomp at the wall. At 11 frames we have while standing 1. At 13 frames we have while standing 4, and at 18 frames we have while standing 3. Now while standing 1 is low damage, you can go into stance. Then you can apply mix up. We also have up forward 1 2 at 12 frames and up forward 1 plus 2 at 17. These so you can only punish moves that recover standing. Let's talk throws. For a 1 break we have Jackhammer. This is 50 damage and you get. Let's talk throws. For a 1 break we have Jackhammer. This is 50 damage and you get OK. Your best options are D3, D4 and DF3, DF1. The lows are for grounded, the launch is for back rollers. For a 1 plus 1. So you can only punish moves. For a 1 break we have Jackhammer. This is 50. Damage and you get
Master.
OK. Your best options
NSW
are D3,
Love
D4 and D.
said, "Hey there.
Hey, what's going on? How are you doing today?
DF 50 damage, and you get OK. Your best options are D3,
Master.
D4, and DF3,
NSW
DF1. The
love.
lows are for grounded, the
Set.
launch is for back rollers.
I'm good, Rogue.
Lows are for grounded, the launch is for back D3, D4, and DF3, DF1. The lows are for grounded, the launch is for back rollers.
Master. NSW loved. Said. Are you new to Tekken?
Yeah, this is gonna. Well, I guess this isn't like my first time playing Tekken, but it's the first time I'm taking it serious.
Master. NSW loved. Said. Okay, if you need someone to play with, add me on Steam or Discord.
Yeah, of course. I should have a link to my Discord in one of the commands. I need to update it so people can say what games they're coming in from.
For a 1+2 break, we have all around the world. This is a launcher. The easy combo is this. It does 75 damage and the sweep is guaranteed. For a 2 throw, we have Power Slam. This cannot be buffered. If you hit 1+2, you go into mount, but you also lose damage. If you don't transition, then you get OK. Your best options are D3, D4, and DF3, DF1. The lows are for grounded, the launcher is for back rollers. For a 1+2 break, we have all around the world. For a 1+2 break, we have all. For a 1+2 break, we have all around the world. This is a.
Is that an explanation mark?
Launcher. The easy combo is this. It does 75 damage and the sweep is guaranteed. For a 2-throw, we have Power Slam. This cannot be buffered. If you hit 1+2, you go into mount. Okay. Your best options are D3, D. D4 and DF3, DF1. The Marduk also has VTS throws. The 1 throw is Choke Slam and this has no Oki. The 2 throw is Scoop Slam. This guarantees a D3. DF1 also launches standards and back rollers. Standards and back Scoop Slam. This guarantees a D3. DF1 also launches standards and back rollers. Marduk also has ground throws. The 1 throw is the toss up, the 2 throw does direct damage. The 2 throw does direct damage. With the toss up, if it's from the floor, you get a full combo. If it's inside a combo, then you change your approach. One option is ground pound. If this sits in the air, then the sweep is guaranteed. Inside a combo, then you change toss up. If it's from the floor, you get a full combo. If it's inside a combo, with the toss up, if it's from the floor, you get a full combo. If it's inside a combo, then you change your approach. One option, with the toss up, if it's from the floor, you get a the 1 throws the toss up, does direct damage. Combo. With the toss up, if it's from the floor, you get a full combo. If it's inside a combo, with the toss up, if it's from the One option is ground pound. If this hits in the air, then the sweep is guaranteed. If it's late though, then you get extra damage. An alternative is the stomp. This guarantees a ground pound. You also get while standing 3 if it's them standing. When they're sideways and face down, both throws give you rib smash. Oki's. This guarantees a ground pound. If it's late though, then you get extra damage. The sweep is guaranteed. If it's late though, option, then you change your approach. Yeah, then the sweep is guaranteed. If it's late though, then you get extra damage. An alternative is the stomp. This guarantees a ground pound. You also get while standing 3 if it's them standing. If the alternative is the stomp, this guarantees a ground pound. An alternative is the stomp. This guarantees a ground pound. You also get while standing 3 if it's is the damage. If this hits in the air, one option is ground pound. If this hits in the air, then the sweep is guaranteed. If it's late though, then you get extra damage. An alternative is the stomp. This guarantees a ground pound. You also get while standing, then you get ground pound. If this hits in the air, then the sweep is guaranteed. If it's late though, then you get extra damage. It's late. One option is ground pound. If this hits in the air, then the sweep is guaranteed. If it's late though, then you get extra is the stomp. And face down, both lows are for grounded, smash. Oki is then D3, D4 and DF1. The lows are for grounded, the mid is for everything else. Mid is for Oki is then D3, D4 and DF1. The lows are for grounded, the mid is for everything else. D4 and DF1. The lows are for grounded, the mid is Oki is then D. When they're sideways and face down, both throws give you rib smash. Oki is then D3, D4 and DF1. The lows are for grounded, the mid is for everything else. Marduk has Veil 2-door stance. This can be entered and exited. The stomp. This guarantees everything else. Marduk has Veil 2-door stance. This can be entered and exited using 3+4. Now while in stance, all while standing moves are available. The only exception is up forward 1+2. This will come out as the tackle. Now the tackle is a long range mid hitting throw. If it's early, you get the lift and drop. If it's late, then you get the spear. Either way, you go into mount. From there, you have 8 possible attacks. The single buttons, including the fake outs, all give melon mashes. From there, you get Oki. For left melon mash is back 4, D4 and D3.
Bro, this dude is a car. I thought I was really about to just get in here and do some Oki. This man has setups. It's not nothing I'm just about to get done. Like, I haven't even played him yet. I'm 2 minutes into the video and I have to go.
No worries.
But like that's just crazy. It's gonna be a while. It's gonna be a while. I gotta find a better balance. Yeah, this is crazy. I mean, we've started shipping at Tekken though. That's nice. That's nice.
Master. NSW loved. Said. My Discord is Rico Act 7376.
Yeah, I can add you real quick. Thank you so much for joining on in with us today. I just wanted to say thank you everyone for coming through, whether you've been in here for a little bit or the whole time. This will be the end of the stream for today. Tomorrow we will be coming back with some King of Fighters to continue our run of trying to compete at all of the games at EVO this year. So, without further ado, thank you so much for your time. Never stop learning. I'll see you guys next time.
Master. NSW loved. Said. Tekken is a hard game way different than anime